Good morning. Hopefully now we are having actual sound from us. Apologies for that slightly false start. Welcome to our Into Senior School webinar. My name is William Petty from Bonas MacFarlane, sister company to the Independent Schools Show, and I'm delighted to be here today and introducing you to 6 leading senior schools from within easy reach of London as our first Into webinar. Bonas MacFarlane specialise in school placements to British independent schools all around the country, and we specialise in placing children from all around the world and from Britain right up to university level. So I spend a lot of my time personally considering UK independent schools and looking around them, and we've noticed recently, of course, that it's quite difficult to see them, and this is one route in which we're hoping that you as prospective parents can get some sense as to what these schools look and feel like, and indeed hopefully learn a little bit today about what's required to apply to them and to successfully gain admission. We're going to see them in action today. Hopefully it'll be quite a new and different webinar rather than, well, I'm doing the usual static one, although I have to say my background's quite a bit smarter than it was during lockdown in my East End flat. So that's an improvement. But today I can see the pictures coming at me on my screen already from the schools, and there's beautiful weather for us. So I think we're going to be out and about and far more dynamic than perhaps we're all used to. So I'm very much looking forward to that. There will be a Q&A session, and there'll be opportunities to ask about the school admissions towards the end. And the way through, we're going to go to each school one by one, and they're going to give you a quick introduction to where they are, hopefully heavily visual, and we'll move on through the schools. And once we finish that, we are going to have a Q&A panel live. We've had lots of questions already, although do keep coming in, and hopefully we'll get to as many of those questions as possible and hear from as many of our panelists as possible today. I've spoken rather faster than I was expecting, actually, or said rather less than I normally do. But because there's a lot to do, actually, I think we will plough on a minute early. So we're going to go first to John Atwater, the principal at King's Ely in Cambridgeshire, who I believe will be standing in the old Palace Gardens, the Sixth Form Centre. Over to you.
William, thank you very much, and welcome everybody on a lovely sunny day to Ely, wherever you are in the world. I want to talk a little bit about location and environment as considerations which are sometimes overlooked when you're looking to choose a school. Location is very important. I think you need to think about whether you want a school which is in the city or in the countryside. You also need to think of the practicalities of getting there. Is it going to be easy for your child to get to school every day, or if they're going to be a boarder, how accessible is it going to be when you come to visit them? How easy is it going to be for you to get there as well? It is possible to have a happy medium between the country pile in acres and acres of rolling countryside, but remote and miles from anywhere, and the city school. I think here at King's Ely we are incredibly lucky to have that balance. We're located 15 miles from Cambridge, just over an hour by train from London, and about an hour from London's major airports as well. And our location is a city school, but it's a tiny city. It's a market town, really, in the middle of amazing countryside and a fantastic tourist spot as well. And here, there's been a community here for 1,000 years, and they are used to welcoming people from all over the world. And certainly that's the case for the King's community as well. Obviously related to location is environment. And I firmly believe that actually the environment in which a child grows up is a massively important influence on who they are, how they think as well. Here at King's, as I've said, we're a community dating back over 1,000 years. And the environment here then is steeped in history. Behind us is the cathedral, which is the school's chapel. And behind me here is the old palace built in the 1470s, which it serves as the base for our sixth form. I don't think people can fail to have the impact of those places where we meet, where they grow up, and where they're taught and where they learn. The impact on them is just tangible, actually. And the culture and the sense of history and the depth of community is very, very important and does rub off on everybody. Of course, not just, I think, like good design can also have a massive impact on people. And it's just quality of environment, which is really, really important. So many of our facilities, for instance, are purpose-built, bespoke, and carefully thought about. And again, I think that idea of design possibly explains why so many of our children want to go on to do engineering and architecture, and that balance of the technical and the artistic, which again is going to be so important to our children's future. But you can't help, I think, feeling very lucky to be eating your meals in a massive 13th century monastic barn, to have as your school library a medieval gatehouse where you can study, knowing that people have been studying there and working there and living there for so many hundreds and hundreds of years. Environment is also, of course, not just the built environment, but the natural environment. We're very lucky here, again, to be in the countryside next to one of the major agricultural centres of the country, which means that we have to think about where we source our food from, the natural environment and how we look after it. And having wonderful green space here, including historical trees. You can't see, but in front of me here is the famous London plane, which is one of the great 50 trees of the UK, which started life here in 1680. All that, I think, has, again, a massive impact on the way that people think and on the way they take account of other factors when they're making decisions for themselves and when they're learning alongside and growing up alongside each other. I think that's probably enough from me for a brief taste, but I hope to be able to answer your questions later.
John, thank you very much. And thank you to King's Ely in general, and beautiful backdrop that you've provided us there, which is making me think the summer's not quite dead yet, despite the loom of October. Wonderful, very prompt, and to the 5-minute mark there. Thank you. So we'll plough straight on, I think, and go straight to Chris, headmaster, who will be at Felsted in the school pavilion, I believe.
Good morning. Thank you, Will. Welcome to Felsted School, and thank you so much for joining us here today. My name's Chris Townsend, and for the last 5 years, I've been fortunate enough to be the head of this wonderful place. As you can see, Felsted is a beautiful school set in 80 acres of rural Essex in the village of Felsted, within easy reach of Cambridge and London, and just 15 minutes drive from Stansted Airport. Our school is just under 1,100 pupils aged between 4 and 18, with 570 pupils in our senior school, which runs from 13 to 18. Boarding is introduced towards the top end of our prep school, and in the senior school, 3/4 of our students are boarders, ranging from families in the village who value the independence and social development of boarding to those who live in more than 30 countries around the world. In fact, behind me in the main building, you can just see our Upper Sixth Boys boarding house, as well as 2 day houses. This building is just over 150 years old, but the school itself is 456 years old. The school has a great deal of history. We are still the only school to have educated an English head of state. But we're also innovative and forward-looking in our approach, as seen in our brilliant Felsted at Home programme that ran throughout last term's lockdown. But education at Felsted is not just about what happens in the classroom, although we continue to produce outstanding value-added results with all of our students. Education is about enabling the individual to develop as a person based on strong values and by understanding that with privilege comes responsibility. And we know this is a privileged existence that these students get to enjoy. We encourage all of our students to have busy co-curricular programs with excellence in sports, music, drama, outward bound, leadership, and of course, service programs. So whether you want to captain the netball team, play in the jazz band, take the lead in a play, achieve Gold Duke of Edinburgh, or work with one of our local, national, or international charity partners, there are opportunities for all. We work very hard as well to ensure that all our students are able to consider a full range of options of life beyond Felsted, with a very strong professional development team supporting medics, vets, Oxbridge and Russell Group, US universities, European universities, apprenticeships and entry straight to the workplace as well. We draw upon a rich and varied range of former pupils, parents, friends of the school to give the young people real life experience and guidance through our Felsted network. At Felsted, we also recognise the value of encouraging all of our students to think internationally. The world that this year's students go out into will require global solutions to the challenges it faces. And with the IB on the curriculum alongside A-levels, a thriving Model United Nations programme and global membership of the Round Square, and we'll be co-hosting next year's global conference. All of this at Felsted encourages students to look outwards. Felsted has 9 boarding houses, 8 senior and 1 prep, and offers great flexibility in our boarding offer, while having a vibrant programme at weekends for our full boarders. Pastoral care is at the heart of our house provision. And our groundbreaking approach to wellbeing, including the Felsted Wellbeing Centre, is as important as any other facility in the school. We're fully committed as well to encouraging diversity throughout the school and want all of our community to recognise the benefits of difference in a school that values being welcoming, kind and fun, alongside being hardworking and aspirational. If you've never seen us before, why not take a look at our website to find out more, or come and see us in person. Thank you.
Wonderful, Chris. Thank you very much. The younger or more comic book interested viewers of you might have noticed Chris slipped in a paraphrase line there from Spider-Man, which is with great power comes responsibility. We had privilege. Don't think I didn't notice that, Chris. Wonderful, and what a beautiful day and a beautiful school to look at. Thank you. So we're now moving on to the lovely South Coast, live to Lancing and Mrs. Becky Webber, and hopefully some pupils as well, I believe. Over to you, Lancing.
Hello from Lancing College. I'm going to talk to you about what we do here beyond the academic studies and talk about our co-curricular program. Here at Lancing we have over 100 different options for things students can do, and the one that I want to draw to your attention today is the Medic Society. Successfully getting a place in medicine isn't an easy process, and the Medic Society at Lancing College ensures that all our students enter the process with as much chance as possible of successfully gaining a place. Last year we were able to get students into Imperial and Oxford to study medicine, and over the last 5 years we have had 15 medics successfully gain places at med school. But rather than listen to me talking about it, what I'd like to do is to introduce you to 3 of our upper sixth medics who are just about to apply for medicine. They've just been literally dragged in from the field. They've been doing some ecology sampling out in the environment here, and they've come in and they are going to tell you about their medical experience. First of all, I'd just like you to each say your name and perhaps if you've got an area of medicine that you're interested in, or just tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Nelly Mendes. I'm an FSIT. I'm looking to apply to Imperial as my first choice this year. I'm really interested in surgery perhaps one day, but I also like areas of dermatology.
Lovely, thank you. And Hannah?
Hi, I'm Hannah, looking to apply to Edinburgh, preferably after doing a gap year. Currently not specific areas of medicine, so.
Yeah, that's great. And Will?
I'm Will Palmer. I'm hoping to go to King's College, and I'd say probably psychiatry is an area of medicine.
Lovely. So you've done the lower sixth medics course with me. I wonder if you could share with me perhaps what was the best thing that we did as a result of the lower sixth medic course? Something you enjoyed most?
For me, I really enjoyed the human cadaver section that we went to see at the Brighton Sussex Med School, because I'm really interested in anatomy and I've enjoyed learning about human anatomy in our biology lessons over the years. So found it really interesting to actually be able to see it in person.
And a lot of people comment on the ethical side of what they discovered as a result of that. Can any of you mention anything about that side of it?
I think the people, the two doctors who were there, who were guiding us through the process, they were all very informative and they were very good at telling us the different arguments, and but it was all about how people wanted to further on science and help them to develop new things and learn more and understand things. So I think it's a lot about that, but obviously there's different arguments.
Yeah, so COVID last term meant our medic sessions were slightly different to how we would normally run them, and we run quite a lot of them through Microsoft Teams. Could you tell us about any of those lessons that you found particularly interesting or useful?
I mean, I really liked we had one that was the sort of do's and don'ts for your personal statement on medicine, and that was really useful. But also speaking to some of the old Lancing students who'd gone on to medicine.
Yeah.
But I think just in general, being able to carry on in that way, sort of as if it was normal, was really good.
Yeah. Well, we're very lucky at Lancing that we have a large network of ex-students who are very happy to come in and share their experiences, and quite often they are happy to, well, for this year group they've swapped email addresses and are happy to read personal statements through and advise about university choices. So that's a really useful thing that we had. So guys, you're currently in the process of actually applying for medicine. I think we've got just 4 weeks to go until the UCAS deadline. Could you share any advice, some of the things you've learned from attending our sessions that mean that you think you'd like to share and say what was useful?
Well, obviously you said about the personal statement do's and don'ts, which I did find very, very useful. And obviously on Teams, everything's recorded, so you can just look back on it. Other things as well is also advice, as well as like online things and different forums. So there's options for UCAT and BMAT, and they have tips and tricks for that. Yeah.
No, that's great.
I mean, I think we've just been preparing for quite a while, which is the nice thing, is like having a year of preparation beforehand, whereas some people get kind of August and go, oh, I should probably start getting ready.
Comes around so
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. You have to be quite unique to apply for medicine and have a really unique selling point, and I think our medics group really allows our students to have that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Becky, Lancing College, and of course the hopeful medical students. We move now on to Newhall School in Chelmsford, where we have the principal, Catherine Jeffrey, and 2 sixth formers. It says on my sheet that they're in the sixth form bar and social room. It's the first time I've heard anything today that reminds me of my days in boarding school. So without further ado, Catherine, over to you.
Good morning and welcome to Newhall. I'm Catherine Jeffrey, the principal here at Newhall. I've been enrolled here for 19 years now, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this wonderful historic environment. We are, as you said, in the sixth form bar and lounge. We're in the former home of Anne Boleyn and the former Tudor Palace of Beaulieu. Now, it may be as parents you're thinking, do I go co-education or single-sex education for my child? So I'd like to introduce you to a distinctive feature of Newhall School, the diamond model. So we are an all-through school from age 1 to 18 with the optimal combination of single-sex and co-educational teaching. If you join us in the nursery and the preparatory division, children will be in co-educational classes until age 11. But then on transfer or on joining the school at age 11, students either join the boys division or the girls division, where they're taught in single-sex classes until the end of GCSEs. They then progress onto a large and vibrant co-educational sixth form, preparing them for their future careers, university and the world of work. So I'd like to hand over now to Tomiwa, who speaks with his experience as head boy at Newhall about what makes the being a pupil within the diamond model structure a distinctive and enjoyable one. Thank you, Tomiwa.
Thank you very much. So I came to Newhall from an all-boys grammar school. I came to Newhall as a scholar. And as Catherine said, the diamond model really does bring the best of both worlds. When I came to New Hall, the classes were, in my class, there were all boys in my class, and I found that it really did help to remove distractions and helped us to focus on our academic studies as well as our personal development, which enabled me to achieve the best academic results I think I could ever think of. A big thing that the single-sex teaching entails is that the boys that I was out playing rugby with on the field and training with during the weekdays, I was able to learn side by side with these boys, and it really did develop our friendships and our ability to play rugby, and led to us winning a lot more games. And finally, being integrated in the sixth form with the girls really did help me develop my communication skills and prepare me for later life. So I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you, Tora. That's interesting what you say about the academic side. So at New Hall, we have a very strong academic tradition. We would see typically around 2/3 of A-level grades at the top grades, A star and A, and 3/4 of grades at GCSE at those top grades. What's interesting with the diamond model structure is the boys are achieving results on a par with the girls, bucking the national trend that sees on a national perspective boys underachieving. So we think that the diamond model really does help boys to focus and to bring out the very best academically for every pupil. Also got the best of both worlds in that we're a large school. We have some 1,400 students and around 300 boarders. But each student is in a division with no more than 300 students. So no one gets lost in the system. And it's our job to find that special something that your child can really thrive in achieving, whether in the curriculum or through wonderful options on the co-curriculum. And I'd like to hand over to Gracie now, who joined us in sixth form as a boarder, to say something about the boarding experience at New Hall. Gracie.
So I was drawn quite heavily to New Hall due to the single rooms that we were able to enjoy, which allows me to have my privacy, but also to engage in that social life when necessary. But also because our boarding staff are very supportive of us and the pastoral care is always there for us. We benefit very much from the fact that we're an international community, so we're able to explore different cultures. Furthermore, we are offered several different opportunities to engage in things like rugby or to have socials, which is very enjoyable for us, and it allows for us to have that camaraderie when, for instance, if you're missing home, you've always got someone to lean on, particularly because our pastoral care is so strong.
Thank you, Gracie. So I hope you'll come and take a look at our website at New Hall School and our remote open day that takes place this Saturday, because all of this is happening in this extraordinary environment. It's wonderful to be broadcasting from this particular historic setting, this Denford Bar and Lounge, which is here as a dedicated facility for our sixth formers and for our staff, giving that taste of a more adult environment in preparation for university, and is well used by our sixth form students for academic societies and meetings, social events, wine and cheese evening, or the odd game of Scrabble that takes place in the evening as well. So it's a pleasure to welcome you to this venue, but also I hope that you'll join us on our remote tours as well over the weekend on open day, and come and see the 100-acre campus that we've got, the wonderful sports facilities, the outdoor learning, our New Hall farm, and most recently our new golfing facility on site. So I hope you'll come and take a look. Thank you.
Wonderful, Catherine, and your two sixth formers there. Thank you very, very much. I could see some of the schools to come in my panelist screen looking a bit nervy when they heard the announcement that that was being broadcast from Anne Boleyn's former home. That's quite a sort of historic building to sort of top. But brilliant to hear about, and also that mention there, which we will hear again, and we've heard already, about these online virtual open days. While the uncertainty of COVID makes visiting so difficult, this is why we're doing this partly. It is important to remember that there are no. It's not that there are no options; they're just different options. So you must contact the schools, find out what they're doing. The schools are being as organised and adaptive as possible to make sure the prospective parents can still get as good a sense of their respective institutions as they might do in normal conditions. They're never going to quite get there 100%, obviously, but they're trying some very innovative ways of doing it, and it's working very well. So please do keep in touch with them. Of the invites to the open day at New Hall, I'm afraid I was more interested in the wine and cheese evening, but I'll wait, Catherine, for that invite. Without further ado, we'll go live now to the Royal Masonic School for Girls in Hertfordshire, where Rachel, the head of the senior school, is ready to speak to us now. Rachel, over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. And welcome to the Royal Masonic School for Girls. We were founded in 1788 and we are possibly one of the oldest girls' schools in the country. And our history is particularly important to us because the school was founded by the Masons for the orphan daughters of Masons. And so the school has very much had this sense of being a family to its pupils. We, of course, transitioned to be an independent school, as you would know, now in the late 1970s. But that history is still very important, because for us, the nurturing of our pupils, making them feel a member of the school family and feeling valued, is very much key and core to everything that we do. We are an all-through school. We have students here from the age of 2 all the way through to the age of 18. And we are, as I've said, we are an all-girls school. We're based in Rickmansworth, which is just on the outskirts of London. We are actually on the tube, so it's nice and easy to get into London. We're only 20 minutes away from Heathrow as well, which is tremendously useful, especially for our international borders. We are very lucky, though, in that the school is set in 300 acres of parkland, and you can see the picture of the aerial view of the school behind me. So we have the best of both worlds. We have beautiful countryside, but we also have the access to London and all the facilities that offers. As I said, we do focus on the individual pupil, and for us, making sure that every pupil is valued and seen is absolutely key to us. There is no such thing here as a typical RMS girl, and every pupil has different strengths and different interests, and it's our responsibility here to make sure that they can develop those in a way that allows them to move on into later life, to be confident and constructive members of society. So we focus very much academically. We have, of course, a dedicated and highly qualified teaching team who are all very passionate about their subjects. And I think the best way of explaining it is that we get our staff to embrace their inner geek, I think is the best way of putting it. So it's not unusual to see trench warfare being enacted in a classroom in the best possible way. And also we have physics students trying to launch a satellite in tin can as well. So there's a lot of hands-on learning here. We focus very much on the enjoyment of learning. We are very keen that the girls understand how they learn. And so for us, it's process over endpoint. It's not just about if you get the A grades, it's about, do you enjoy the process to get there? And of course, that does mean if you've got students who enjoy and understand their learning, that does mean that they get excellent grades. And we, of course, have students who go on to Oxford and Cambridge every year, and our medics and vets go on. But equally, we have students who go on and into a huge range of occupations. Fashion industry is one of them. We have students at the Royal College of Music, and we celebrate with them wherever they go on to. As I say, there is no typical RMS girl. Our pastoral side of the school is particularly strong, and we spend time with the girls every day. They meet with their form tutor every single day, twice a day, and they know the girls inside out and monitor both their academic work, but also how they're getting on. If there are any friendship issues, they're there to help out and to make suggestions. We're not here to solve issues for girls, but we're here to give them the tools to allow them to develop those relationships with their peers. In addition, we have a full medical staff. We've got a learning support team. We have a chaplain who is great in terms of teaching mindfulness within the school. And we also have a friendship mediator. So we've got lots of things on offer for girls as they need them, if they wish, as they go through the school. And for us as well, a key part of the school is our co-curricular program. Last look, 180 options open in our Michaelmas term to all of our pupils. The problem is not what they are going to do, but the time that they might have in order to do all of the activities that they wish. And all of that together means that we can offer a highly personalised approach to each girl to allow her to develop her strengths and to help her develop those areas which she wishes to enable to set our girls off on the tack that they wish to in their adult life. Thank you very much.
Rachel, thank you very much. And on we move now to our final school of the panel, Mayfield in East Sussex, and Antonia Beery, the headmistress, who is who I'd like to tell everybody, actually, because I've been able to see her this entire time. She has been dutifully standing at her lectern since we started, and I feel very embarrassed that she's last. We should have switched the order around, but thank you for your patience, Antonia, and over to you.
Good morning. Not at all. It's been a pleasure to listen to everybody, and my pleasure, if not to welcome you to Mayfield, at least to give you a little insight into how Mayfield works and Mayfield life. So we're a very diverse community here, both culturally and in terms of the curriculum that we follow. We're a Catholic school, and that is really the heart and soul of the school, and also the reason that very many non-Catholic parents choose to send their girls to be educated here. Now, our foundress, Cornelia Connolly, who's on the window behind me, wanted to be educating girls to respond to the needs of the age, and basically that's what we're here to do. I want to be educating ambassadors, not just ambassadors' wives, and to do that we want to make sure the girls have the confidence, each girl has the confidence to be herself, and the means of finding out what she's really good at and doing that better, but also knowing or realising what she's not so good at and where she needs to work harder. It's not about being perfect at Mayfield, but aspiring to it, I suppose. So this type of discernment really begins in year 7, and we expect the girls to throw themselves into a pretty intense range of subjects. Ancient and modern languages, matched with food and nutrition, music, drama, lots of IT and innovation, art, ceramics, textiles, and of course sport. Obviously the PE department, as in many schools, would like the girls to be playing sport all the time. Obviously we don't let them, but I think that sense of encouraging girls to find out a sport for life, really, so that they can continue to be active, whether they're a very competitive team player or whether they're preferring more individual sport. We've seen in lockdown that it's really, you can learn a great deal by learning remotely, and you can jump through all the hoops and you can follow the curriculum. And I think what we've all missed is that personal and social engagement, the sort of heart and soul of a real education. And I know that talking to the girls, that's what they've really missed. But now they're back, they're throwing themselves into activities, whether it's dissection club, whether it's beekeeping. Messy, our environmental girls are very busy at the moment. Whether it's ethics, whether it's equestrian. You know, each girl finding the combination of subjects that or activities that she enjoys. And I think because they all do such a different range of subjects, then they make friends throughout the school, and we avoid that temptation to sort of just spend time with people like yourself. So, you know, we may live on a very historic site, beautiful countryside, but I think for me it's really important that the girls are at the cutting edge of technology. They're entrepreneurs, they're flexible thinkers, they're independent. And I think for a 21st century woman, it's not just about being able to do maths and science. You know, maths is our most popular A-level subject, it has been for about 20 years, I think. So it's not that, but it's not simply being successful at science. It's about being able to think creatively and being creative. And that means making mistakes. It means learning from mistakes. It means adapting, evaluating, and finding out new and exciting ways of doing things, working collaboratively. And I think thinking about how you work with and for other people, that we're really trying to encourage the girls to think about, and it's really, really needed at this time, rather than just learning facts and figures. So yes, we do consistently produce vets and doctors and engineers, and that's not a surprise given that we want them to be thinking about the impact that they make on society when they leave school. But they're not just ordinary scientists. They're girls who distinguish themselves, as I say, by being creative. And that encouraging all of the girls, whatever their subject they're doing, to be creative is important. And so, you know, we've got a couple of examples here. If you're looking at the ceramics over to my right, Caroline, who made these amazing leopards, who made the plate there. When she came to us in year 7, her mother was really worried. She was a bit of a tomboy. She wasn't sure what she wanted to do. So we have, Caroline just left. She's now studying engineering at Bristol University, and with her ceramics A-level A-star, she had an A-star in maths, in physics, and in further maths. So for us, that sense of girls bringing different areas of their life together really positively. She's still climbing trees, but she can climb anything. But that's who she is, and that's what makes her amazing. You know, again, the picture here, you might see this, which looks very pink and beautiful. It's actually based on the heart. And Lottie, who studied with her ceramics, physics, chemistry and biology, has gone on to be a medic. Lots of different things that the children here produced by a girl who went on to be Maria, who went on to be an architect. So for us, that's really important, that the girls are enjoying a wide range of activities and bringing together their interests. But just because you're good at science doesn't mean, and you want to have a positive impact on society, doesn't mean you have to be a doctor or a vet or an engineer. You know, to be a good artist, you need the discipline, the focus, the attention to detail of science. And we're equally proud of the creative and performing arts girls that Mayfield's produced. You know, Megan, who's just gone off to drama school in London, had an A-level in maths to go with her music and her drama A-level. Clara is currently, or went on to do an art foundation course, is now doing philosophy at UCL, but her maths, English, science, maths, English, Spanish, philosophy and art came together, and she's now studying philosophy. Imogen did sociology and is now going on and is now really high-powered in the world of gaming. So our school motto, which is shared by our sister schools across the world, is actions, not words. And I think that is important now more than ever. But while I'm, as you can tell, very happy to talk about Mayfield till the cows come home, you really need to come and see the school in action. We're very happy to arrange individual visits. We have an open morning online, but we'd love you to come and visit safely, obviously all precautions taken into account, but for you to have that chance to meet girls, to meet staff, and to really see the beating heart of Mayfield and what makes it so special. So I really look forward to seeing you as soon as we can. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Antonia, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Very, very interesting with some beautiful art. Those sculptures of children are quite extraordinary, even on a tiny postage stamp image I've got in front of me. Thank you to all of our speakers from each school so far. Quite brilliant and very, very interesting. And huge thanks for being incredibly prompt with your timings. You've been well drilled, I can see. So we're now going to move on to our Q&A panel, and we've had a vast amount of questions. Thanks to the huge numbers of you viewing. I'm just going to quickly run through the panelists because they're not necessarily the same as those speakers you've heard already. So we've got Felsted, Head of Admissions, Gemma Kilby, and again, Spider-Man Headmaster Chris Townsend. At Lancing, we have Sarah Linfield, the Admissions Manager, and Kelly Edwards, a House Mistress. Newhall, we're joined again by Catherine Jeffrey. RMS, Royal Masonic School, we have Rachel once more, the Head of the Senior School. Mayfield will be joined by Antonia, who we've just been hearing from, and King's Ely, Head of People Recruitment, Jane Formston. If I've got any of that wrong, please correct me when you come online. I can see in the picture there that John Atwater of King's Ely doesn't look at all like Jane Formston. Apologies. So I think we'll have the pleasure of John again. I've got some questions to start with. Speakers, if I could ask you to try your best to stick to 1 to 2 minutes, and also if you don't quite manage that and I put a stop to you, forgive me. We just want to try and fit in as much as we can. The questions are still coming in. To the viewers, please, could you, if you have any questions, as I said, we've got a lot, so I can't guarantee we'll get to them, but if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box, which you'll find a button for at the bottom of your Zoom panel screen. So let me begin with a pretty straightforward question for King's Ely, and that's, when should we start looking as parents to applying?
It depends which stage you're looking to come in. Of course, we take children from 2 to 18, but yeah, for secondary age group, if you're looking for entrance at year 7, I would say start having a look around about year 5. Narrow down your selection. Go and see lots of schools, but don't talk to your children too much about it yet. Narrow the selection down to about 2 or 3 on your list before you start taking your children to the open mornings. Otherwise, they tend to have school fatigue after a bit, and they make a choice based on the quality of the biscuits at the open morning or something like that. And I think I would say do that. It gives you plenty of time to keep going back and back and back with your questions before you get into the actual admissions process, which should happen in the 6 months or so before the admission actually takes place. So certainly, I would say start looking year 5. If you're looking for year 9 entry, then again, find out what the system is around pre-testing, for instance. Do they require a pre-test? And then play it by ear from that. Many will give you advanced places that you take the test from the January of year 6 for a year 9 place, but it will vary from school to school. The main thing is get in contact with the school early.
Great, thank you very much, John. So I'm going to pose this next, it's a slightly double question to Newhall. And the questions are, should I go to an open day or book a personal tour? And then the supplementary question is, are these operating as usual during the pandemic? That's for
Thank you very much for that. So absolutely, I think attending remotely or in person is absolutely essential. Every school has its own distinctive feel. Via some creative alternative to attending in person, like today's exhibition, whether you attend remotely or whether you attend, you need to meet the people who will be engaged in the education of your child. There are lots of options available. Many schools at the moment are also welcoming visits in person, albeit not the large open days that many of us traditionally have run once or twice a year. So the best thing we would recommend is, if you're interested in a school, contact the admissions department, find out what operation they have in place at the moment. It may well be that you can book a tour. We had families touring Newhall this morning with the deputy principal, with the head of our prep divisions, are taking place. But the big scale events are probably going to be done remotely at the moment. So the best thing to do is, when you've got your short list of schools that you're looking at, is to contact the admissions departments directly, or look on the school website at what the important to be having discussions with the school to get the feel of the particular distinctive. Parent will have particular questions about their own child's needs. No two children are the same. And I think it's those conversations, even if they're on the phone with key staff, are so important in order to work out whether a school is really right fit for your child. There was a second part to the question.
The second part was just, you kind of answered it already, actually. It was just about how visits and open days are operating during the pandemic. So it was, you folded it all in nicely there, thank you. So on to the next question, for this one directed at Felsted. How do I find out about bursaries and or scholarships?
Thanks, Will. Well, I think there's the easiest way is to have a look on some websites. So do your online research first, and then contact the schools and find out exactly what the process is. Felsted, like most schools, will do everything it can to support people who want to access the education that we offer within our means. So I think the best bet is to do your online research first, and then speak in person to the schools about exactly what that would involve.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Apologies, got my fingers of fudge as keyboard operators, not working very well. Wonderful, so Mayfield, please, how many schools can we apply to? Kind of straightforward one, I hope.
Well, obviously, I'm going to say apply to Mayfield.
Yeah.
But I think what Catherine said is important. That sense of coming to visit a small number of schools, doing your research in advance, so that girls particularly can get very anxious about the change, because the transition particularly from year 7 or year 6 to year 7, especially if from smaller prep schools or primary schools, even at year 9, is that sense of parents having the confidence to come and narrow down to a couple, and then helping make that decision for their daughters or their sons. And I think involving children in that decision is really important, but just to have that confidence, it's a really massive step to take, and to leave it just to your child to make that final decision can put immense pressure on them. So just remember, there are lots of people to help you make that choice. Your child will be one of them, but as parents, I think really have the confidence to make that final choice.
Great, thank you. And yet, on that number of schools thing, obviously, as the only person here who sort of, I suppose, deals with multiple schools for a particular family, I would say that there is a sensible number to consider. You've got to bear in mind, you do get a bit of snow blindness if you insist on visiting 20 schools. Anything will start to look the same if you see 20 different types of it, to a certain extent. So, make the online research the element which help bring down that number, given your parameters and your child and what you think will suit them. And then, with our families, when we're helping them, we tend to limit them to certainly seeing no more than 3 to 5. But that's after they've gone through quite a lot of homework on the schools beforehand. And obviously, depending on how the admissions are done, you need to think about your child's calendar and schedule of admissions. What you don't want to do is, say, put down a very ambitious choice, which you may not be realistically, going to get without a lot of luck, in front of like the following day, which is your favourite and more realistic choice, meaning that your child is exhausted from the previous day to a school he or she is probably not going to get into, as opposed to one that they will almost certainly get into and do very well at. You don't want to jeopardise those assessment days. So that's a couple of things further to think about. Over to the lovely South Coast and Lancing again. Where should I register my child? When? I thought that sounded odd. When should I register my child?
So for year, we start at year 9, so we have an intake at year 9 and an intake at year 12. For year 9, we're looking ideally sort of 3 years ahead. So we have a pre-test program in place, which pupils are tested in year 6 and come to the college in the January for a big experience day. And so they need to be registered by the middle of October in year 6 if they're going to go down the pre-test route. The longer you leave it, the fewer spaces there'll be at year 9. So getting registered early is a good idea. For year 12, we work a year in advance. So we're now taking applications for year 12 for 2021 entry, and the closing date is the middle of October.
Brilliant. Excellent. Very clear. Thank you very much. And the last sort of booked in question, school nominated, is for Royal Masonic School. And the question is, are there tests and interviews? How should I prepare my child? Rachel.
Of course, every school is slightly different in the tests and interviews that it does. But to give you a sense of what happens here at RMS, we certainly have tests where girls will be asked to sit in an adaptive computer-aided test to get a sense of their skill levels. And we also ask our students to do a piece of creative writing for entry here as well. Having said that, in terms of preparation for that, you can do practice tests, but they are more to familiarise the children and to make them feel comfortable with doing the tests would be what I would recommend, rather than overly pressurising them into worrying about whether or not they are going to pass or not. In terms of interviews, getting your children to understand, to sort of feel comfortable talking to different people and talking about their interests and hobbies, what they enjoy doing at school, and getting a sense of what they've accomplished, and so they can pre-plan some of that, so that when they're asked the question, what do you enjoy about school, which is often one that we always start with, they have one that they're ready to go with. It's not something for them to be worried about particularly, but just practicing. So maybe practicing with a neighbour is a good start.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Rachel. So on to the, well, actually, I'll just pick up on a few bits about the tests and interviews and preparation. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding amongst parents about interviews, and it's really important that for each school you properly look at their admissions process documents and read what they are wanting from an interview. It varies wildly. Some schools will not have any academic element to their interviews. That's more normal than the most. It's the very academically selected that tend to use the interview as yet another excuse to quiz your poor child. The majority, though, are looking to find out in the best possible way as much as they can about the child in front of them. And so, you know, it isn't about religious preparation for the interview, because you will sound like a robot and it doesn't really sound believable, it sounds rehearsed. So it's about helping your child talk through everything they're good at and not stopping at yes or no, even if, you know, most questions can be answered yes or no, but the school and the person in front of you, the interviewer, will be expecting a bit more. You know, do you like football? Yes. Because I like playing in goalie, I'm in the first 11, whatever it might be. So it's being expansive, but at the same time having that balance to know when to stop talking. That's my 2 cents on interviews. I'll move swiftly on before I say something wrong. We've got lots and lots of questions. Thank you to all the viewers for sending them in. They're still coming in, which is extraordinary. And some of you will get answers to more specific questions in writing from our team here. But out loud, let me crack on to something. A question perhaps we haven't had specifically yet. This is an interesting one. What will... No, no, really doesn't make as much sense as I thought it did at the beginning. Okay, let me go for this one. This is a classic, and I will go. I think we probably should hear from 2 schools. It's a question about single. Actually, we're going to hear from 1 school about this with the diamond structure. So, which would be Newhall. So this question is, what are the benefits? I've chosen Newhall, by the way, to viewers because to a certain extent, they are treading the line between both options, which we've heard a little bit about earlier. What are the benefits and drawbacks of single sex versus co-ed in the modern era? So that's single sex versus co-education in the modern era.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So I think this is the question in the minds of many parents, because it's a very important feature of many teaching environment. As explained earlier, a diamond model school actually does do both. Of one or the other. So in terms of the benefit environment, obviously it's a preparation for the real world out there, and certainly by the age of 18, most young people will benefit from having had educational experiences in the classroom and through the co-curriculum, mixing together boys and girls together, finding their confidence and exploring a whole range of different activities and interests. Also, I think for families, thinking about simple logistics of, can I get my son and my daughter to the school, to the holidays? If you've got a family combination with sons and daughters, about thinking about co-education. The outset is there isn't one better model than the other. So at the end of the day, it's about tailoring your... It definitely is a difference for the child's experience of being educated for some of their education in single-sex classes. So the particular advantages that brings, we have single-sex teaching at Newhall from ages 11 to 16, and what we find is that the main benefit is past. They build a close relationship with a tutor who identifies and can support them through particular challenges during adolescence, with friendship issues, with their growing maturity, which many children...
Catherine, sorry, I'm going to have to jump in just because we're losing quite a lot of your audio, I'm afraid, in places. So apologies for that, but we'll come back to you later. The next question is, it's an interesting one actually, about sort of more for the international students. So the question, and I'd like John, if you'd be so kind to try and answer this one. Do schools provide Tier 4 visa support to students who come to the UK as day students?
Thank you for that, Googly.
Sorry.
The answer is we can. I mean, the vast majority of our international students who require visa, Tier 4 visas, do come to us as boarders. And there are certain steps that you need to ensure as to where they are staying and who they're staying with, and that that person has a particular sort of visa as well, or the right to reside in the country. But the answer is yes, it is possible.
Thank you. And just to add to that, what parents I would encourage you to think about from overseas, those of you requiring Tier 4 visas for your children, there's two sort of big things that I think don't sort of necessarily permeate until you investigate the process. One is, if you're going to live here with your child who needs a Tier 4 visa, you need a dependent visa that goes with their visa, and you can only get one of those up until your child is the age of 12. So that there are quite a few problems after that, and they do involve, as John alluded to, guardians, etc., and quite a lot of officialdom and paperwork. The other thing to think about is that if a school has a boarding facility, they are naturally going to reserve their allocation, and all schools have one, of Tier 4 visas for the boarding community by and large. So those slots, if you like, to have a Tier 4 day support visa, those are going to be fewer and less available, and only if the boarding houses have some space, I would imagine. On to the next one. So, right, this is very topical. So I think we'll go over to we've not heard from for a little bit, Felsted for this one. And the question is a homeschooled child disadvantaged as there won't be school reference in his or her favour? So is a homeschooled child disadvantaged as there won't be school references in his or her favour?
It's an interesting question. I think we're used to dealing with students from all sorts of different backgrounds and different educational experiences coming to the school. So some references from schools don't provide all that much information. When they do, it's helpful, but if they don't, we'd want to get to know the circumstances of the child and the circumstances of the family so that we could make the appropriate decisions. So it's a complication rather than a disadvantage, I would say. And I think if we have got a child who's come from a homeschooling background, then just talk to the schools in advance and make sure that you've got the time to spend to get to know the school and for the school to get to know you as well, so that for both parties it can be a success, because it's a big shift to go from homeschooling into school, and both the school and the family need to do everything they can to make sure that that transition is successful.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And so, Antonia, if I may ask you this question, Antonia at Mayfield, what contingencies are senior schools putting in place for entrance exams that are happening this winter, obviously, whatever age they're happening at? So what contingency plans have been put in place for the next round of entrance exams in light of the possible quarantines?
Well, I think obviously it's a question of looking and talking to the schools that you're interested in, because again, every school will be doing things slightly differently. And as we all know from being in schools for over the past 6 months, things can change very quickly. At the moment, I think schools are endeavouring to work with feeder schools, particularly to ensure that the girls and boys have a really smooth experience, and that any stress that school or parents might be feeling about the procedure isn't reflected onto the children. So I think we're certainly working with our feeder schools for the girls to sit tests. For those it's not possible, then we're looking at how we manage very small socially distanced groups. The key thing, as we've said, whether it's with homeschool children or whether it's with girls and boys coming from at 11 plus, at 13 plus, or even at sixth form, it's that transition and enabling the schools to find out as much information as they can about the individual students, so that we can all be happy that it's the right student in the right school. So if I would suggest to parents to contact the schools they're interested in, to find out what's happening, to look at what's going to work best for them. We're all having to do things in a very different way, to be flexible. It may not, as with GCSEs and A-level, it may not come down simply to sitting a test and the test results. And I think all schools are open to being much more flexible. So for any parents, if in doubt, look on the website and talk to the admissions department, because they will be very, very keen to work with you.
Thank you so much, Antonia. Yeah, and I'd just like to reiterate that for the viewers. That's true of all schools and all the situations that are coming up, and it's always been true, in fact. But during this sort of these extraordinary times and these sort of extra measures being imposed upon us all over the world, as ever, school contact is really important. Direct school contact. Regarding your situation, if you can't find a website, doesn't mean there isn't an answer. Okay, the schools have got so much to talk about. Fitting it on a single website that's user-friendly is impossible. So it is really important. Pick up the phone, engage, start a conversation, it's also, should that be successful ultimately, that's a great, it's a great starting blocks of your relationship with the school. So please keep that in mind, regardless. We're going to have a couple more questions before we finish up, and we're going to start with a very interesting one, actually, one I get asked a lot in my work overseas. And if Lancing would be kind enough to have a go at this one, the question is: do boarding schools offer bursaries to international students? And for our viewers, I just quickly want to describe that. Bursaries are the mechanism by which most of our schools here give discounts, whereas scholarships have a very minimal discount attached. In some schools, none on the fees, and it's much more to do with ability and talent in certain areas. So Lancing, over to you with bursaries.
Okay, so I can only speak from our point of view. So our bursaries, on the whole, are attached to success at scholarship. And you're right, our scholarships are a fairly small percentage, and then the bursarial assistance is means tested, and that means speaking with our bursar as early as possible to see how much would be available. In terms of international students accessing bursaries, because they'd need to sit a scholarship or take part in a scholarship assessment day, it would mean that they'd need to be here for that. It's quite difficult to assess students alongside everybody else to make it a fair process. So it isn't completely out of the question, but it rarely happens because the scholarship day is a day where they need to come here and they need to be interviewed and assessed by the staff, be it for academic or for other scholarships such as art or drama or music. So quite difficult to do. Looking forward, it may be that we need to change the way we do things because of people not being able to get here, and maybe music being assessed via Zoom or something similar, and maybe art portfolios being sent to us. I don't know, but that's how we do it currently.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it is a tricky one, and that's often the answer to the viewers, which is that bursaries are really tricky thing to administer to overseas parents, because obviously mostly, as in Lancing's case, bursaries are decided in part by means tested mechanisms which can only be done to British residents reliably. So it's a tricky situation. That there are schemes for individual countries for certain schools, but they tend to be highly specific. And actually, it's not the school you're applying to, it's the scheme you apply to in your home country, and that's how it works. But again, speaking to schools, contacting them directly is the best way to garner that information and accurately so. So we're going to head to one final question for Rachel at RMS, and the question is, this is quite a tough one actually, sorry, Rachel. I'm going to expand the question. The original question was, what are the main advantages of an independent school over a grammar school? Which I think is, it's an interesting one, but perhaps we could put in grammar school / state secondary school and give you a bit more width for that. Rachel, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Actually, probably better placed. I used to work in a grammar school setting as well, so I can contrast relatively
Of course I knew,
easily.
Rachel.
Yeah, of course you knew that, Will. Of course. So essentially, with any sort of grammar school, you have the academic selection that is the key part of the school, which is great if your child is highly academic and enjoys the challenge and thrives on competition. If you've got a child who is perhaps needs more nurturing or has confidence issues, grammar schools might not be quite the right place for them. So there's an aspect there. State grammar schools obviously have all the funding restrictions that all state schools have, and so what they don't have perhaps is the breadth of the co-curricular offer and the breadth of opportunity that an independent school can provide. And for us, and certainly speaking solely for RMS now, for us that's a really important part of that. So because classroom learning, pastoral support and that co-curricular provision all come together for that really holistic learning experience for the pupils. So in terms of, so yes, but it depends. Well, as we've said before, it's very much about knowing your child and getting to know the school, because you will know if it's the right fit for them or not. And listen carefully to alumni, listen carefully to parents of current students at the school, because that's always worthwhile doing.
Classic, I was on mute there, brilliant. Like there's someone to stop me being a complete idiot. Right, I was just saying thank you, Rachel, and indeed thank you to all our panellists and speakers today from all of the schools. I hope all the viewers felt that that was extremely interesting, useful and dynamic, as certainly I did, and really very nice in these lockdown, semi-lockdown COVID era to see you and to see the schools. Made me feel like I'm not in a total box. And hopefully those at home felt similarly. Our next webinar is choosing a London school, another big sort of topic for admissions focus, and will be that's next Tuesday at 10:30 for those of you, and we will have some representatives from the Good Schools Guide and two very well recognised London heads to answer questions about London from nursery to sixth form, and you can register for that at our website schoolsshow.co.uk. And so thank you to Felsted, Lancing, Newhall, Mayfield, Royal Masonic School for Girls, and King's Ely, and thank you all very much for tuning in and watching, and we look forward to seeing you again at the next webinar. Goodbye.